Hi, so in this video, I'm going to talk about a nurse that came to work with her 2-year-old son. So basically, this nurse, she trains overseas. She's moved to the UK recently. She's got a 2-year-old baby that she moved together with the baby and the husband. She works for the NHS and she brought her child to work because she didn't have any childcare. Look, yes, it's difficult to be a parent, it's difficult to be a nurse, it's difficult to be a working mom, it's difficult to be a single mom, it's difficult to be a single dad, it's difficult to just raise children in this country. But but we all need to be really, really careful with some of the decisions that we're making regarding children. Because if you're a nurse and you're bringing a child to work, because you haven't got childcare, I was just like, look, what is going on? And she was like, oh, I was worried about calling work to say I wasn't coming, or just worried about the implications. Are they going to take away my sponsorship? She said about how much she struggled to get to the UK, how she was worried about, the consequences of, having to miss work in such an early stage in her UK journey. Um, and I was like, look, basically, if you have baby, if you don't have childcare, which I don't want to say it's not an excuse, but I mean, emergencies are going to happen. But as a parent, as a working parent, the natural expectation is that you make provision for childcare. You need to organize your childcare. If you're working 3 days a week, it is your duty to know that, okay, on Wednesday, I'm doing a day shift. Where am I going to keep the baby? On Friday, I'm working a night shift. Where am I going to keep my baby? Because a 2-year-old, you can't bring them to a hospital ward to work. You can't keep them in the staff room for, a 12-hour shift. So obviously this decision, I don't understand, obviously how she thought, but she was basically worried about the sponsorship. So again, if you're working for the NHS, you need to understand that you have carer's leave. So there's carer's leave that you can take, which means that if your first degree relative, generally that's how they do it, but it's really discretionary because I've seen managers give carer's leave for all sorts of things. They gave it once to somebody who lost their dog. They've given it for people when their grandparents are unwell. They've given it to people when their husbands are away. They've given it to people when children are unwell. So it's really discretionary. So it depends on the management where you are. But there is this carer's leave that you can take. So what happens is if you don't have any childcare at all, you're stuck. And it shouldn't be that you don't have childcare and you're using this to cover up for childcare. That's not the point. The point is that if you have organized childcare and they say in the morning your child mother rings you and says, oh my God, Melvis, I'm off sick, I'm sick, I'm not able to have the baby anymore, then you have to ring your place of work and say, look, unfortunately I'm not able to come to work because I've got this particular challenge with my baby. The childminder isn't able to come and look after the baby. So then that's when you can use the carer's leave. But you cannot take a 2-year-old child to an NHS hospital, while you're working a 12-hour shift. It really doesn't work. And again, like in the case of this nurse, if you're working with your partner, obviously, if it's possible, the best way to manage childcare is do it between yourselves. Even if it means working fewer shifts, it's a lot better because this nurse basically said that her husband had gone to work, and so, she was meant to work as well. He had gone to work. It's all, I don't get it. But anyway, you need to be able to organize your childcare. We all struggle with childcare issues in the UK. It's something that is long standing. It's not going to be going away anytime soon. But you've got to make provision for your childcare. That's the whole point. Because if you don't, social services will come and take your baby. And that is a worst case scenario that any parent wants to be experiencing. So if, again, you haven't subscribed to the channel, just hit that subscribe button. Make sure that you turn on the notification button so that when I drop any video, you're the first to be notified, because this channel is all about career progression for nurses, carers, student nurses in and out of the UK, as well as entrepreneurship. You're thinking of retiring early, starting a side business, those are the sort of things that I can support you with. And so that's the sort of content that you can expect to see more of on, here. So just make sure that you're keeping up to date with everything. So like we were saying, if you are not, good at organizing your childcare, your working life in the UK is going to be very, very stressful. And with carers leave, just to make it out there, you can have a maximum of about 3 a year. So in a whole year, you should not be having more than 3 episodes. And again, like I say, it's discretionary, which basically means that it depends on management where you are actually working. So if you ring and say, look, I've got childcare issues, and they say you're going to take it as annual leave, then it's going to be annual leave. If they say you're going to take it as unpaid leave, then that's going to be unpaid leave. But really, if it's the first time that you're doing it within that year, you should really get it as careless leave. But know that it's not something that you can be taking very frequently, because it's just not allowed. It's discretionary. Otherwise, everybody would just ring work and say, oh, no, I can't come in because of childcare. So this nurse, what she needed to have done was to ring her place of work, and even if it's your first day in the UK or it's your last day, you don't need to be, you don't need to feel that you have to take your baby, a 2-year-old boy to a ward, you know, ring work, and just have the confidence, the ability to ring and talk about your challenges, because sometimes we can say that people are not really supporting us, but if you're not bringing forth your challenges, if you're not discussing the challenges that you're facing, how do people even know to support you you know Obviously, this nurse was asked to go home because she had a child with her. You cannot work on a ward with a baby. The manager was like, oh, you need to go home. Rightfully so. So she did return home with the baby, and she had that day as careless leave. But obviously, for future sake, if anything like that happens, the best thing to do is just to ring work and explain, rather than take a 2-year-old boy, to an NHS hospital to be sat in the staff room for 12 hours, a 2-year-old. And again, when children have gotten to that age when they're like 3, it gets a little bit easier, because then they've got nursery, they've got the 30 hours of funding that they can have. So if it's something that you're struggling with, or you're not sure how to go about it, or any childcare issues, just leave a comment in the comment section below. Ask your questions. I'll be in the comment section just to discuss more about these options, what is available. You can also do childcare between you and other parents that live around you and around your school, if your children are already of school age, because it's easy if you're at work and you say, oh, can you pick the child, can you pick the child for me, or can you drop the child for me? It's a lot easier that way, doing it with other parents as well. But obviously, the best and the most efficient way is that you need to pay for childcare, because that is the reality of it. Childcare in the UK is expensive, and it's even more expensive than what you're going to earn from your nursing salary sometimes, depending on the age of your child, depending on where you live, depending on your circumstances, depending on how many hours you need the childcare for. But overall, it's something that is worth it, as a parent, as a working parent. That is just what we have to deal with. So, just make sure that you're making use of annual leave as well. If there's a particular period, say it's a school holidays, and you're struggling, try to take your annual leave during school holidays. Try to organize with your partner so that you've got a job that is conducive for both of you to look after the baby, if you're unable to pay someone else. But you cannot have it all. It's difficult to have to work so much, work extra hours, no one to pay childcare, but at the same time you're working. It just doesn't work. You need to sacrifice. Instead of you're sacrificing the money, to pay someone else. If you want to work extra shifts, know that you have to be willing to then pay someone else. Otherwise, is to do it between you if it's possible, or between other moms around you in your area. And again, that's why integrating in the community, integrating in the society is so, so important. Because if you're isolated, then you're not going to be able to have those connections, have those relationships with those other moms and dads that you can collaborate with. So when you come to the UK as a nurse, it's not just about, you go to work, you come back home. No, you need to interact with other people in the society. You need to interact with other moms in your area. Because if you have an emergency, those are the people that you need to ring. If your son or daughter is schooling somewhere, for example, they say they're of school age, or even if they're not schooling yet, you need to have the contact for other moms, that if you have an emergency, you can ring somebody. Better still, like I said, you need to get a childminder, or do it with your partner. because as a parent, you need to sacrifice something. You need to give up something. Either you're giving up the money to pay someone else to look after the baby, or you need to dedicate time to create meaningful relationships so that you can be able to rely on other people and support yourselves in that way. It's more of a symbiotic relationship. That way it works really well. Or you need to work less so you can stay home with your baby. Those are the options really that you've got. You either pay a childminder, pay for nursery, make relationships with other parents so that you can do that between yourselves, or you do it between you and your partner. Because that is going to be the most efficient way. There's no need, taking a child to work. You should never ever get to that. It really should never get to that, because it's unacceptable. It even looks irresponsible of the parent, because I said to this nurse, what were you thinking? And she was like, oh, I thought he could sit in the staff room. She brought a few toys. I was like, how can a 2-year-old child sit in the staff room? Oh, the child needs feeding, they need to watch TV, they need to do this, they need to do that. Like, how do you even come up with anything like that? So again, some of these decisions that we're making, if you're not sure about anything, always ask someone else. If you're not sure, just ask. Take the confidence to ring. If you're not well, you're not well, ring. If you've got an emergency, you've got an emergency, ring. It's not that you should take advantage of these policies, but it's really about making use of them when you get stuck. That's why these policies are there in place. Various employers. That is why they put these policies, just to support the staff. But if you don't voice your concerns, then nobody's ever going to know that you're actually going through that situation. And that's why it's so important to be open. Integrate even with your colleagues at work. You cannot succeed as an island in this country. You need to integrate into the system. And this will even help with your career progression as well. Because the more you're able to integrate into the system, the more successful you're going to be in your nursing journey as well. So all of it works hand in hand together. So please, let's try to avoid these sorts of scenarios. Let's try to avoid social services taking away our children. Again, because then we'll say, oh, they've taken away the baby. Oh my God, how mean are they? No, we need to learn the rules, of the land. We need to try to do the right thing. If you're working, you need to try and know the entitlements that you have, the advantages that you have. Emergencies, are there for that, and all these policies is to make use of all these opportunities as well, and make sure that you're understanding the policies, you know what to do in an emergency, even your own personal family emergencies, and that we're really planning this childcare in advance. Yes, emergencies happen. Even me, I always have emergencies, and I have to ring, friends, family and relatives for support. But it's just, it happens. It can happen to any of us, but it's just building those meaningful relationships so that you've got somebody for when that actually happens, rather than take a 2-year-old child to an NHS ward, because it really doesn't make any sense at all. So again, leave any comments in the comment section. I'm going to be there just to discuss other options of childcare. If you can think of an idea that has helped you as a mom or as a working dad in the UK, drop it, because it's going to help someone else as well who may be watching this video and thinking, oh my God, what can I do? So because it's all about supporting each other, it's all about being there for each other, it's all about suggesting ideas so that all of us can continue to excel, we can continue to thrive in nursing, we can continue to enjoy this nursing journey in the UK, we can continue to excel, both in our personal lives as well as our professional lives. Because again, that's what this channel is all about, bringing you the best of that balance, just trying to balance that work life, career, business, job, being a mom, and all of it. So again, just leave your comments below, subscribe to the channel, get the notification so that you want to be the first to know when I drop videos. Because look, there's a lot from where this is all coming, and make sure you watch all the other videos on the channel.